My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the hum of the small jet's single engine. The customs officer's gaze, cold and unblinking, fixed on my carry-on, then on me. He wasn't looking at the clothes, but at the carefully packed truth hidden beneath them, a truth that could bring down an empire or bury me alive. The late flight, a forgotten charter to a forgotten corner of the world, was my last chance, and this man, with his neatly pressed uniform and his indifferent stare, was the final gatekeeper. "Anything to declare, sir?" he asked, his voice flat, devoid of emotion, yet carrying the weight of a silent threat. I felt the sweat prickle my hairline, knowing that a single wrong word, a flicker of hesitation, could unravel everything I had risked. It had all begun 3 months earlier with a number that refused to balance. My life as a forensic accountant at Sterling and Finch had been a predictable rhythm of debits and credits, a world of elegant precision where every penny had a place and a purpose. I thrived in that order, my identity forged in the quiet certainty of accurate ledgers. Then came the Oakhaven account, a new client, impossibly wealthy, impossibly opaque. A routine audit turned into a labyrinth, and somewhere within its winding passages, I found it. A series of transactions, small at first, then larger, moving through shell corporations like ghosts in the machine. They were designed to mimic legitimate investments, but the patterns, once I knew how to look, screamed of something far more sinister than a simple accounting error. I traced the initial transfers back to a network of offshore entities, a spiderweb of ownership obscured by layers of legal fiction. Each thread, when pulled, led not to a legitimate business venture, but to another holding company, another postbox address in a tax haven I'd only ever read about. It was elegant, almost beautiful in its complexity, but the sheer volume of money, hundreds of millions cycling through, felt like a gaping wound in the financial ecosystem. What was I truly looking at? My first instinct was to report it. That's what we did at Sterling and Finch. We unearthed discrepancies, we presented solutions. I drafted a preliminary report, detailing the anomalies with clinical precision, highlighting the suspicious beneficiaries and the unusual velocity of funds. I believed in the system, in the integrity of the firm. I still believed in Thomas, the man who found the truth. I scheduled a meeting with a colleague, a man whose smile rarely reached his eyes, known for his ability to make problems disappear. He listened, his gaze fixed on a distant point beyond my shoulder as I laid out the evidence, the carefully compiled spreadsheets, the red flags fluttering in the digital wind. When I finished, the silence in his opulent office stretched, thick and suffocating. "Thomas," he said, his voice soft, almost paternal, "I have a commendable eye for detail, truly exceptional." He paused, leaning forward just enough to make eye contact, his smile widening but still not reaching his eyes. "However, Oakhaven is a sensitive client, high value. And sometimes, Thomas, the most sophisticated financial structures can appear unconventional to the uninitiated." He pushed my report back across the polished mahogany, a subtle dismissal. He wasn't saying I was wrong, he was saying I was asking the wrong questions. The message was clear, delivered with the subtlety of a surgeon's scalpel: back off. My concerns were not just downplayed, they were actively discouraged. The corruption, Thomas now understood, didn't just touch Oakhaven. It seeped into the very foundations of Sterling and Finch. The firm wasn't just overlooking it, they were complicit. And if they were, what did that make me? Undeterred, a growing sense of unease gnawing at my conscience, Thomas began my own covert investigation. My office, once a sanctuary of order, transformed into a clandestine war room after hours. Thomas started with Oakhaven's public filings, cross-referencing names, addresses, and corporate registrations, painstakingly building a network map on a secure, encrypted laptop Thomas bought with cash. The firm's servers were too dangerous, too easily monitored. Thomas discovered that Oakhaven wasn't just laundering money, it was a conduit, a central hub for a sprawling international syndicate. The transactions weren't just unusual, they were designed to obscure the origins of immense wealth, funds that smelled of illicit trade, of desperate lives and broken laws. One evening, working late, the office deserted save for the hum of servers, I noticed it. A slight, almost imperceptible shift in the light outside my window. It wasn't there when I arrived. My heart tightened. The subtle surveillance began to mount, a creeping unease that permeated my days and nights. My phone would ring, only for the caller to hang up without a word. A colleague I barely knew started asking pointed questions about my workload, my new hobbies. I'd find my desk subtly rearranged. A pen moved, a file shifted, nothing missing, just a message. "We see you." The psychological pressure was a slow burn designed to make me doubt my sanity, to make me question if Thomas was imagining things. Thomas started taking different routes to work, checking my rearview mirror obsessively, feeling eyes on me even when Thomas was alone. The constant vigilance was exhausting, stripping away the calm Thomas once cherished. Was this the price of digging too deep? Then came the morning my daughter's school bus was delayed. Not just delayed, but involved in a minor fender bender, a scraped bumper, no injuries. But the other driver, a hulking man with an empty, dead stare, had lingered, his eyes finding mine across the chaotic street. He hadn't touched my daughter, but he had shown me he could. The illusion of safety shattered into 1,000 pieces. My meticulously ordered life, my family's sanctuary, had been breached. This wasn't just about numbers anymore, it was about protecting everything I held dear. My identity as a cautious number cruncher was being stripped away, replaced by something harder, something I barely recognized. I was no longer just an accountant seeking truth. I was a father fighting for his family. I knew I couldn't fight alone. The syndicate was too vast, too powerful, its tendrils wrapped around institutions Thomas once trusted. My mind went to Marcus Thorne, a brilliant investigative journalist known for his tenacity and his knack for uncovering corporate malfeasance. He'd been disgraced years ago, caught in a scandal that smelled suspiciously like a setup, but his reputation for integrity, however tarnished, remained. He was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but Thomas had no other cards left to play. Thomas found Marcus in a grimy, cluttered office above a perpetually noisy bar, the air thick with stale cigarette smoke and the ghosts of forgotten stories. He looked older, wearier than his press photos suggested, his eyes holding a cynical glint that spoke of too many battles fought and lost. He listened, nursing a lukewarm coffee, his expression unreadable, occasionally scribbling notes on a pad with a frayed pencil. So, Sterling and Finch, one of the most reputable firms in the city, is knee-deep in a money laundering operation for an international crime syndicate, and I, their diligent forensic accountant, are the only one who noticed. He finally said, his voice raspy, laced with skepticism. And I expect me to believe this based on what exactly? My gut feeling. Thomas, have proof, Thomas insisted, my voice tight with desperation. Digital trails, shell corporations, names that link back to known operatives, it's all here. Thomas pulled out a small encrypted USB drive from my pocket, the sum total of my clandestine work, the tangible evidence of my transformation. Thomas need my help to expose them, to get this out. He took the drive, his fingers brushing mine, a fleeting contact that felt like a transfer of an immense, dangerous burden. He studied it, then me, his cynicism warring with a flicker of something else, curiosity, perhaps, or a reluctant spark of the old fire. If this is real, Thomas, I not just risking my job. I risking my life and mine. His words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the precipice Thomas stood on. He still hadn't said yes, but he hadn't said no either. He was a whirlwind of connections, pulling strings, verifying my findings, adding layers of context I hadn't even imagined. He confirmed the links to the international syndicate, a ruthless organization known as the Consortium, their reach far wider and deeper than Thomas had initially grasped. They dealt in everything from illicit pharmaceuticals to political assassinations, and Oakhaven was merely one of their many financial arteries. He introduced me to the Fixer, a former intelligence analyst who now specialized in digital forensics and anonymous data leaks. The Fixer was a ghost, a voice on an encrypted channel, never seen, never truly known, but his skills were undeniable. He helped me refine my data, scrub it clean of any digital fingerprints that could lead back to me, preparing it for public release. He spoke in riddles, warning me that once the data was out, there was no taking it back. My life, he implied, would change irrevocably. The plan was audacious. Compile an irrefutable dossier, leak it to multiple international news agencies simultaneously, creating a cascade of revelations that the consortium couldn't possibly suppress. The key was a specific data packet, a master ledger hidden deep within Oakhaven's system that detailed every illicit transaction, every beneficiary, every link in the chain. I needed to extract it. The opportunity came in the form of a scheduled system upgrade at Sterling and Finch, an overnight maintenance window when external access would be temporarily disabled, but internal access would be granted privileged status for a short period. It was my window, a narrow slit in the wall of their security, my chance to retrieve the master ledger. Marcus had arranged for a contact within a rival firm to accidentally leave a back door open for me, a tiny digital crack in the firewalls. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a dance I knew intimately. But this time the stakes were life and death. I navigated the labyrinthine servers, bypassing firewalls, exploiting vulnerabilities, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I found it. The master ledger, a colossal file humming with the untold stories of billions of illicit dollars. It was a single, elegant key that unlocked the entire conspiracy. As the data streamed into my encrypted drive, a shadow fell across my screen. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. A figure stood in the doorway of my office, silhouetted against the dim corridor light. It was a colleague. His smile, as always, didn't reach his eyes. "Working late, Thomas?" he asked, his voice calm, almost amused. "Dedicated as ever." He stepped into the room, and in his hand, Thomas saw a small, sleek device. A signal jammer. He knew, he had known all along. My mind raced. How long had he been watching me? They was Marcus compromised. They was the fixer. The betrayal was a bitter taste in my mouth, but it solidified my resolve. Thomas had to get this data out. Thomas had to protect my family. Thomas had to become someone else entirely. My fingers, hidden beneath the desk, rapidly initiated a secondary, emergency upload to a cloud server, a dead man switch I had configured with the fixer. It was slower, riskier, but it was my only backup. A colleague chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Loose ends. Yes, Thomas, I certainly have a knack for finding them and for creating them." He gestured to my screen. "That ledger. It's rather inconvenient, wouldn't I agree?" I didn't answer, my eyes flicking to the progress bar on my hidden upload. 60%, not enough, not yet. The room was silent save for the whir of the computer fans and the frantic drumming of my own heart. He knew I was trying to send it. He was playing a game, a cruel, patient game. A small, persistent problem. We tried to warn I off, gently, but I just wouldn't listen. He took another step closer, and I saw a glint of metal in his other hand. My breath hitched. This wasn't about numbers anymore, it was about survival. Thomas had to buy time. Thomas stood up, pushing my chair back with a scrape that echoed in the silent office. "What do I want?" I asked, my voice a little hoarse, my eyes fixed on the progress bar now at 75%. "Just to contain the damage," he said, his smile now a predatory baring of teeth. "And to ensure I understand the gravity of my misjudgment." He lunged. Thomas reacted on instinct, grabbing a heavy stapler from my desk and swinging it wildly. It connected with his arm, a sickening thud, and the scalpel clattered to the floor. Thomas didn't wait. I bolted, scrambling out of my office, past the stunned colleague, and into the deserted corridor. My mind screamed one thing: run! I heard his furious shout behind me, the sound of heavy footsteps pursuing. The building, once my sanctuary, was now a trap. I burst out of the emergency exit, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. My car was parked blocks away, too far. I ran blindly, fueled by adrenaline and a desperate need to escape, to get the data, my proof, into the world. I knew then that my life as Thomas, the meticulous accountant, was over. The man running through the night, clutching an encrypted drive, was someone new, forged in fear and defiance. I eventually made it to a prearranged safe house, a small, nondescript apartment Marcus had secured. My hidden upload completed just as I crashed through the door, gasping for breath, my body aching. The data was out, a small beacon in the digital ocean, but it wasn't enough. I needed to deliver the physical drive, the irrefutable evidence, to a contact Marcus had arranged. A late flight, a forgotten charter to a small airport where international journalists were waiting. Marcus met me at the safe house, his face grim. "They know I have it, Thomas. They're closing in. A colleague. No one at the firm knows where he is." He handed me a small, discreet package. "This is my ticket, and this," he added, placing a small, flat device in my palm, "is a GPS tracker." "What about I asked. My voice raw, he just shrugged, a weary smile touching his lips. "I've got my own battles to fight. Just get this out, Thomas, make it count." He squeezed my shoulder, a silent farewell, then melted back into the night. I was alone again, the weight of the world and my family's future resting squarely on my shoulders. The journey to the small airport was a blur of paranoia and calculated risks. Thomas took circuitous routes, swapped vehicles twice, used cash for everything. Thomas was no longer an accountant. Thomas was a ghost, a phantom moving through the underbelly of the city, clutching my precious cargo, not drugs, not diamonds, but truth. And now here Thomas was at the final checkpoint. The customs officer, his eyes unwavering, his hand hovering over my carry-on. The single engine of the small jet idled impatiently on the tarmac, a metallic bird waiting to carry me or my failure away. "Anything to Sir," he repeated, his voice still flat, but now Thomas detected a faint edge of impatience or perhaps something more. His gaze flickered to a small, almost imperceptible earpiece nestled in his left ear. Was he one of them? Thomas swallowed, my mouth suddenly dry. Just personal effects, Thomas managed, trying to project an air of nonchalance Thomas didn't feel. My hand instinctively tightened on the handle of my bag, where the false bottom concealed the encrypted drive. He picked up my bag, his movements slow, deliberate. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs. This was it, the moment of truth. He unzipped the main compartment, rummaging through my clothes, his fingers brushing perilously close to the hidden compartment. Thomas held my breath, every muscle in my body tensed, ready to run, to fight, to do whatever it took. "Looks clear," he said, his voice devoid of any discernible emotion, and for a fleeting second, Thomas allowed myself to believe it. He started to close the bag. A wave of relief so potent it almost buckled my knees washed over me. Then his fingers paused. "Almost," he murmured, his voice now a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. He didn't open the false bottom. He didn't need to. He simply looked at me, a knowing glint in his eyes, and then, slowly, deliberately, he placed a small silver coin on top of my neatly folded shirt, right where the false bottom began. A simple, innocuous coin,